everybody to this evening's meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. Welcome Joe Deacon and his listening audience at WCBU as well as Cable Channel 22. We've been notified that the meeting may be preempted on CBU, but still available on the live stream at peoriagov.org, Public Access Channel 22, and YouTube. So if we are preempted due to the Senate hearings this week, that is the reason. We've also been notified that there may be some camera issues, but they are in the process of being resolved. With that said, Madam Clerk, the council mics are open for roll call.
Mayor Ardis.
Here.
Councilmember Ali.
Present.
Councilmember Sear.
Here.
Councilmember Grayeb.
Here.
Councilmember Jensen.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Montalongo.
Here.
Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Euler.
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Ruckriegel.
Present.
You have a quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In accordance with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-43, which continues to limit any gatherings of more than 50 people, and Executive Orders 2020-07, 33, 44, 52, and 55, requiring the provision of video, audio, or telephonic access to meetings, as well as the CDC recommending social distancing of at least 6 feet between persons, City Hall has implemented changes and restrictions for the City Council meetings on October 13th, 2020, while complying with the Open Meetings Act. The council meeting will be conducted in person with members of the council and some staff present in council chambers with plexiglass barriers and with department heads in room 404 with the ability to remotely answer questions while maintaining a 6-foot distance. 15 members of the public will be permitted inside council chambers at a time. Temperature screenings are required upon entry to City Hall, and face coverings are required while inside. Members of the public and media are invited to watch through the live stream YouTube television channel 22 or WCBU radio. Submissions for public comment were received through the city clerk's office. The agenda, minutes, and video podcast of the meeting will be available online through the city website. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to join us and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We do have one proclamation this evening. We'd like to invite Roberta Kochalski, the Deputy Director of the Library, to join us at the center podium out there since we can't do it up close and personal. We're very excited to provide this proclamation tonight. Roberta, thank you for coming down. Whereas for the past 45 years, the Illinois Library Association has chosen one special person among thousands to be the Illinois Librarian of the Year. And whereas this year, the Illinois Library Association selected Peoria Public Library Deputy Director Roberta Kochalski, who, as they proclaim, is a passionate, dedicated champion of her community, her library's role in it, in the profession at large. And whereas Roberta is the first such honoree from the city of Peoria and Peoria Public Library since the award was created. And whereas Roberta's impact also extends into our community, her work to raise opioid addiction awareness in libraries has been recognized nationally. She also held a key role in the city's Don't Shoot initiative to combat gang violence. Nearly 20 years ago, she established and championed the city's One City, One Book program known as Peoria Reads. And whereas she served on the board of directors for Neighborhood House and volunteers her time to teach adults how to read and do math. In short, Roberta strives to make Peoria a better place. Now, therefore, I, Jim Artis, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby celebrate the work of Roberta Kolchelski and celebrate and congratulate her on being named the Illinois Librarian of the Year for 2020. Well, a couple people want to say a few words, Roberta, but I know on a personal level how important you've been to our community for many, many years, taking such strong leadership roles in the efforts mentioned here and many of those that space prohibited us from doing. But we can't thank you enough. We're very proud of how you represent Peoria Public Library, and we're very happy that the state of Illinois has recognized your hard work as well. So on behalf of the entire City Council, thank you for all of the work you're doing in the community, and best wishes going forward. Our liaison to the library board is Councilman Ruckriegel, who would like to say a couple words before he introduces Mr. Yelverton. Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. And congratulations. I've had the privilege of being able to work with you as a member of the library board and also as liaison. And it was in my work outside of those two roles where I saw not only what you gave to our community, but what you gave to a larger group. And it was with organizations like Rails where your name would come up and the wonderful efforts that our library was doing that it really stood out. And I think show me the libraries of any community and you'll see how great that community is. And with ours, that's extremely important. But I think it's also important to know, and for the public to hear, that this is not something that just happened. This was a journey along the way. And if I remember a story correctly, it was your parents who let you be able to put index cards in some of your books that you would actually check out. So this is a lifelong learning love affair with books and education. And that took you to Commonplace and your push with adult literacy as well. And your work as a community leader led you to be able to meet one of the sitting presidents in 2007, and for USA News and World Report to actually name you as one of the new first responders. And all of these pieces have been not because of the honor, but because of what you have decided is important within our community. Thank you for your energy, your efforts, your example. Thank you for what you provided myself as a library patron, but also every one of our library patrons. They feel it each and every day, your effect that you do. Congratulations, the honor is so well deserved. And the journey has been incredible to be able to sort of recapture and to see what got us here. Congratulations, and now I'd like to bring over Randall Yelverton, who's our Executive Director, to say a couple of words.
Thank you, City Council. Mr. Mayor, thank you for having us. I'm just thrilled to be able to get the chance to introduce Roberta Kolchelski tonight. Roberta's passion for libraries, literacy, and serving others is inspiring, and it has been a pleasure working with her these past 2 years. She's a community leader who is always looking for ways to use her skills to improve Peoria and the lives of those around her. She has served as an adult literacy tutor and board member at Commonplace, now Neighborhood House, for many years, and has led innovative, nationally recognized programming. She has become a resource for librarians across the nation who want to teach their staff how to help those who are having an opioid overdose. Hard to speak in the mask. Takes a little getting used to. Thanks to her efforts, our library staff have access to naloxone and training on how to use it safely and effectively for those suffering overdoses. Because of Roberta, we have Peoria Reads, our One City, One Book program, which she helped start nearly 20 years ago. She worked with Mayor Artis on the city's Don't Shoot initiative, which offered a unique approach to violence prevention. They selected the book Don't Shoot for Peoria Reads and built a series of programs and discussions around it. The city modeled its Don't Shoot efforts based on those outlined in the book. The Peoria Reads program has since had important and consequential discussions on subjects like drug addiction and care for those with dementia. So these accomplishments and the work outlined in the proclamation give you an idea of why Roberta Koszelski was selected for the Illinois Library Association's Librarian of the Year. But it is her care and compassion for those she comes into contact with and her desire to serve the city of Peoria that make her such a valuable part of our library and community. It has been a privilege to work with Roberta these past 2 years. She has an energy and commitment to excellence that is inspiring. Like so many great leaders, she improves the work of those around her through her example and commitment to our team. She is always eager to help, and her advice and knowledge have been invaluable as we have led the library through a challenging year. And I will tell you, if you need a document proofread and made better, give it to Roberta. It's going to come out that much better. She's great at that. She makes me sound that much smarter. So wonderful to work with. My trust in her is enormous and deserved. We're blessed to have Roberta in our library and community. Thank you, Roberta, for your commitment to the library and for the excellent work you do every day. I love working with you.
Thank you, everyone. I didn't expect all these words. I have a few. First of all, thank you, Mayor Artis and Sid Rock-Regal and the members of the City Council for this recognition with the proclamation. I'm so glad that my parents took me to the library. I have my husband Chandler here, and I appreciate that he doesn't get upset when I do library work in the evenings or on weekends. He's mellow and he's good with that. He kind of has to be. I also want to publicly thank librarian Carla Wilkinson and managers Jenny Severe and Alice Jackson from the library who nominated me for this award. I had no idea they were doing it until I got the notification on the 4th of July. Peoria Public Library works as a collaboration among our Board of Trustees, our library director, executive director, and our dedicated managers and staff, and the community. I feel fortunate to be a part of this collaboration. Working together, we can make the library even better. And just yesterday, we were notified that a new joint collaboration is going to happen between Peoria Public Library and Fifth House Ensemble out of Chicago. We're being funded by the Illinois Arts Council agency, so the library can offer 10 virtual public engagement events that help us explore how we as a community deal with the past and imagine our futures. Again, working together, we can continue to make the library and our community even better. Thank you again for recognizing me with this proclamation. I'm very grateful.
Councilman Rock-Regal.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held on September 22nd, 2020, as printed.
Seconded by Councilman Graeb. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Yes, we're at the township portion of the minutes. The first item is 20-247, and that's a request from the township officials to set the annual town meeting and to set a special meeting of the township electors for November 10th, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. and 6:05 p.m. at City Hall Council Chambers.
Trustee Graeb.
I would so move.
Motion by Trustee Graeb, seconded by Trustee Kelly. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
20-248 is a request from the town officials to approve the September 2020 actual expenditures and to approve the October 2020 anticipated expenditures for the town of the city of Peoria.
Thank you. Trustee Greb.
I move to approve the September and October stats.
Motion to approve, seconded by Trustee Ali. Discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
20-249 is a communication from the township attorney with a request to adopt an ordinance setting compensation for elected township officials for the town of the city of Peoria.
Thank you. Trustee Greb.
Move to approve the freeze ordinance.
Motion by Trustee Greb, seconded by Trustee Kelly. Discussion on this item. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We would be at the consent agenda. So did you want to go forward?
Councilman Greb, did you want to make a motion here?
Chairman, I move that we go into executive session, discuss
Okay.
legal matters.
Council Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Executive session would be pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters, 2C11, pending litigation, and 2C21 to discuss closed session minutes.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilman Greb to go into exec, seconded by Councilmember Ruckriegel. Any discussion on the motion? Please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously. We'll be going to executive session to return. Madam Clerk, would you like to, well, she's not even here. Of course she would. Madam Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
Mayor Artis,
Here.
Councilmember Ali, Councilmember Sear,
Here.
Councilmember Grab, Councilmember Jensen,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Montalongo,
Here.
Councilmember Moore, Councilmember Euler,
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach,
Here.
and Councilmember Reckriegel. You have a quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we're back to regular agenda.
We are at the consent agenda. 20-250 is a request to approve and authorize the execution of a contract to place COVHR USA on retainer to provide executive level recruitment services. 20-251 is a request to approve for the city manager to execute an agreement with IDOT in the amount of $52,291 plus contingency for the city's participation in costs associated with replacing video detection systems at intersections on U.S. Route 150, War Memorial Drive, Route 40, Knoxville, and Illinois Route 91. (20-252) has three parts. A is to accept the 2020 Edwin Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance of the Department of Justice in the amount of $58,636. B is to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2020 to 2021 biennial budget relating to the capital fund to recognize the receipt of grant funding from the Bureau of Justice Assistance providing the 2020 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $58,636. And C is to approve and authorize the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peoria and the County of Peoria under the 2020 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant in the amount of $58,636. 20-253 is a request to adopt an ordinance to rescind ordinance number 10888, which amended Schedule N of Chapter 28 of the Code of the City of Peoria by designating the block of Nevada Street between Oregon Street and Southwest Adams a one-way street in Traffic Schedule N. 20-254 is a request to approve the site application for a Class C1 packaged goods liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for J.K. Williams Distilling, DBA J.K. Williams Distilling, 8635 North Industrial Road, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 20-255 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Sister City Commission with a request to concur of Julie Eisenberger. 20-256 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a request to concur of Dr. Karen Vapella. 20-257 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations with a request to concur of Sharon Kramer. 20-258 is a request to receive and file the month ended August 31, 2020 unaudited financial report, and that completes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any items to remove from consent this evening? Councilman Montalongo.
Item 2250.
250. Any other items to remove from consent? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the remaining items. Councilman Sears, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
20-250 is the execution of an agreement to place COV HR USA on retainer to provide executive level recruitment services.
Councilman Montalongo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have a quick question for the city manager. Is this for a specific or specific jobs that we're going to be hiring for? And my question is, I understand that going outside, there's specific recruiting companies that can get a lot of candidates and so forth, but just kind of like the current situation that we're in right now, I think we should have an inward look in Peoria first to see if we can find the best candidates in Peoria first before going outside of our community to recruit somebody, and just want to understand that.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, the proposal is for executive level positions. So what we're really talking about are department head level positions. With the early retirement incentive, we do have several department head level positions that are eligible for retirement. And just in anticipation that we may have one or more vacancies of department head level positions, we issued a request for proposals to be able to have a search firm on retainer that we could use. The fees that are outlined here in the council communication would be for each individual search that we do. We have used GovHR in the past on a number of different recruitments for us as we've looked at department head level positions. As you stated, if there is an opportunity to hire from within, we'll certainly look at that and try and make every effort to do so, and we would not utilize these services in that manner. We just simply wanted to have this kind of on hand in case we needed to use it. So we wouldn't spend anything if we don't use it. This is only if we're using it for a specific search.
Very good. So it's on a retainer base if we decide to use them, and you will first recruit or look for hiring somebody from Peoria first for this position before going outside.
Well, we're gonna what we'll do is we can't restrict it to just Peoria. I mean, what I meant by internally is we'll look at the city staff first and see if we can fill it from within, internal hires. But then we'll, if we're going to go outside, then we'll have to open it up to everyone.
So we can't just, I guess, after looking for internal staff, we can't specifically just hire from within the Peoria city limits?
Well, we can certainly look at that if there were eligible candidates within the city, but
I think that should be one of our requirements, is that if we're going to, especially right now, I mean, the economy's not doing well, and if we're going to be, and especially for a position like this, it's going to be I think, a very well-paying job that we should be looking to build up in Peoria before outside our community. Just my thoughts. I understand this is for retainer, but I think that's, it might not be our policy. Maybe we need to circle back and look at that. Thank you.
Councilman Greb.
First of all, some of these positions would have to entail the new occupant residing within the city of Peoria, or willing to reside in the city of Peoria. That's number one. Number two, I've been to this show many times, and every single time we give money to recruit folks who are not from our area and who don't know our community. And then we wonder why there's a long learning curve. And what have we been saying? And what have we been hearing in many, many strategic retreats? I go back 20 years about building our bench strength. And now we don't have a bench strength, so we have to right now, tonight, appropriate anywhere from $14,000 to $16,500 so that we can get hired hands from some other community. Not going to support it. Been to this show before. The manager needs direction from us to find qualified people who are familiar with this community, in our community, and if they're going to be executives, or cabinet, whatever, they have, and top administrative positions, they have to live in the city of Peoria, which is already something that's provided. So I will vote no on this, and I would encourage all of you to consider doing this only if efforts do not succeed to hire good people within our organization now. Thank you.
I think it's a given that the city manager will, if there's somebody qualified within our organization, they'll be considered for the job. I mean, why wouldn't we? They don't have to, there isn't any learning curve. We don't even know for sure if there's going to be 1 or 5 or more department heads leaving. All this is doing is allowing them to potentially retain this firm if we do. So I know some people have never been involved in executive searches or potential executive searches of any magnitude. I think we want the best candidates for the job, and I think the citizens of our community want the best candidates for the job, regardless. Hopefully they're from within the organization as it is. If not, hopefully they live in our community. We want the best person for the job, and they will. All of our department heads have to live within the city, so that's already a requirement. So I have no problems giving the city manager the ability to potentially use a firm to make sure that we get the best candidates. Councilmember Ali.
Thank you, Mayor. I also support this. I know that we do want to build talent from within and hire the best qualified person, and the best qualified person for these positions could be internal. But at the same time, I think we need a competitive process to make sure that we're looking beyond our city limits, and maybe we get a new resident. Maybe we get a new resident to the city of Peoria by this hire if it's from outside. But, you know, this is very common to hire a search firm for a high-level position, for executive-level positions. We do it all the time in my field, and I think it's just important that we give the opportunity for internal individuals to apply, but we do have to, I think, reach a little bit further just to make sure that we're getting the best talent. So I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item or a motion? Councilman Kelly? I'll turn it on for you, okay?
Okay.
There you go. It's on.
I move to approve.
Thank you. Motion to approve, seconded by Councilman Reaganbach. Additional discussion on this item? Councilman Montalongo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that, yes, I understand internal first, but I want to make sure that we are going to be looking at people in Peoria next before we go outside the community. We have a very talented community with a lot of education experience. I'm sure we can find somebody that fits this bill. We're not looking for a rocket scientist and experts in certain chemicals. I'm sure we'll be able to find the right person that we need for within our community. And that should be first internal, I guess, if we had a person with the experience within the city limits. And before we go outside, Mr. City Manager, I just want to make sure that we're heading in that direction. And I'm getting that's the read from the rest of the council before we go outside recruiting new people into our community. I think we have the talent here in Peoria to fulfill these jobs.
Councilman Grabe?
Again, what we do is we destroy morale of people within our organization when we do this. We're not the only organization that does this. But it's inappropriate to do it, especially in a learned community such as Peoria, where on a per capita basis, we have far more people with advanced degrees than most communities in the United States of America. Master's degrees, postmaster's degree, PhD, postdoctoral studies. We've got most of what we need here. And I've heard this said before because some folks wanted to bring in some folks from the outside, like a police chief from the outside, 2 assistant police chiefs, because they needed somebody with a master's degree, and that didn't work out very well under a previous city manager. So as I say, I've been to this movie before. People in Peoria are not rubes. People within our organization have institutional knowledge. And I'm not going to give this management one dime to start doing this until we exhaust the talent within our organization and within this community. So I just want to make certain everybody understands exactly what my position is and why. And let me add one more thing. Caterpillar Tractor Company, one of the Fortune 100 companies, maybe Fortune 50 companies, the ratings change. They have a succession school. Why do they have a succession school? Because they try to move people up within the ranks. I've seen it happen way too often in education, too. You have people who work for a school system for years and years and years, and they're passed over to become superintendent. Why? Why does that happen? Do we have an inferiority complex? Do we really have nobody qualified, or do we want somebody who does not have somewhat of a base, a power base in this community, so they can be better manipulated and controlled by some of the forces that be? I've been there. I've seen this show many times, folks. I'm not opposed to doing this if we exhaust our search and cannot find qualified people within our ranks or within our community. But to give this money now is to get the same result we've gotten time after time after time. Thank you.
For the listening audience, to be clear, we're giving this money if we need to. If we need to. If we don't find a candidate inside. If we don't find another candidate, then we'll be able to have the search firm do the search. Councilman Sear and then Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, just a quick question. Is this the same firm? Did we hire this firm for Mrs. Rotler and Mr. Muhammad and Mr. Powers?
No in all 3 of those instances, but we have used this firm in the past for public works directors prior to that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jensen.
I just have a question for clarification based on the comments from the mayor. I thought, aren't we voting to approve this money for a retainer, so we pay the firm so they're there when we need them?
No, what this would be is this would be the fee for each individual search if we use the firm. So what you're approving is the contract with the firm. If we have 3 vacancies at the department head level and we need to fill it, and let's say we find 1 internal candidate but 2 we need to go outside, we would use the firm for 2 of those, so we would pay that fee twice.
Okay, so the fee, the range from 14 to 16 is for each search.
Correct. Which in some instances, a corporate recruiter, you're going to be looking at 30% or 33% per the salary of those individuals. So this is a really good price that we're getting for this.
Okay, and as a follow-up, in the past when we've used search firms, I don't remember that coming to the council before.
In some instances, we have just used the selection, a search firm, because if the price came in under that $10,000 or $15,000 figure, we've been able to execute off of that. So, and do that without council's approval.
Okay, thank you.
I might add that we're kind of in a potential unique situation with this, with the early retirement incentives that are out there, how long some of our department heads have served. So we're probably I don't know if there's ever been a time in recent history that we've had a potential for this many department heads to potentially leave us at the same time. Okay. I'm seeing no more lights. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. The motion passes with 7 ayes, 3 noes. Voting no, Councilmembers Graves, Jensen, Montalongo. Madam Clerk.
We're at regular business. 20-259 is a communication from the mayor and Corporation Council with a request to approve the declaration of local state of emergency.
Councilman Riggenbach.
Move for the approval as presented.
Motion to approve, seconded Councilman Reckriegel. Discussion, Councilman Montalongo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. City Manager, we've been doing this declaration of local state of emergency now for a long period of time. I've not seen anything significant come before us that we couldn't handle at one of these council meetings that absolutely needed to be handled by you or the mayor, I guess, in that need here. Why do we need to continue with this each meeting?
Part of the reason for the continued state of emergency is to just simply ensure that we're getting the necessary reimbursements from the state and federal governments as we're moving through that process. There are expenses that we have incurred with alternative housing arrangements that we needed to go forward with, signing a security contract for those purposes. That was one action item that we had to take. Those are the reasons why we're doing this. We're still in a heightened level of concern over COVID-19. The state is still under this state of emergency, and that's the reason why this is continuing to come to you.
What expenses, I know this has been a question I've been asking from time to time, and forgive me if I didn't see the report back on the expenses that were used in this, but
So
have you given a report back to us yet?
we have, and we'll continue. We'll send you an updated one tomorrow morning. We've had payroll expenses of about $522,000 and supplies in the order of about $500,000 that were unanticipated expenses that we've incurred over the course of this pandemic. Obviously, for the plexiglass that we have, for the cost of hand sanitizers, the cost of masks, the cost of other PPE for our first responders that we've had to expend. So all of those, we'll send that back out so that everyone can see what those costs are that we've incurred.
I don't have any further questions with that, but I appreciate you sending out that report so that we're updated with that. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimous, 9 ayes, 1 nay. Councilman Montalongo. Madam Clerk.
20-260 is a request to approve a settlement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 50.
At this time, we are going to ask Corporation Counsel to give us an overview of the proposed settlement. Counsel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a reminder, in late 2017, early 2018, the city was wrestling with an $8 million budget shortfall and had discussions with the fire union in regards to the potential brownout of a couple of machines. That policy was instituted, and the fire union filed an unfair labor practice in regards to that. The Illinois Labor Relations Board issued an order in regards to that unfair labor practice, which the city has on appeal currently to the 3rd District Appellate Court. As we know, beginning in the spring, the city began to face budgeting issues because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And recently, discussions with the fire union as to the vote this council took on September 1st of 2020 have reached a tentative agreement on how we can resolve that unfair labor practice. The key terms of the agreement would be that the city would withdraw its appeal to the 3rd District Appellate Court, that the fire union would withdraw its unfair labor practice with the Illinois Labor Relations Board, and from October 1st through March 31st, the city would keep 10 engine companies in effect, 4 truck companies, and 2 battalion chiefs. That will result in shift staffing of approximately 44 bargaining unit members per shift, and if they are short on that, those positions will be filled with overtime. There will be no layoffs in the fire department between October 1st of 2020 and March 31 of 2021. And with that, I'll take any questions if there are any.
Any discussion from the council or motion? Councilmember Ali.
I move to approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilman Graham.
Yes, a number of evenings ago, I moved to settle this lawsuit, and there were some folks, well, at least one council person who said this was Illinois politics. Illinois politics. And now we've had, I don't know how many closed sessions to discuss doing this. My motion was made right out there in the open for everybody to see. I'm welcoming all of you to support this, to save our taxpayers dollars, and also there's nothing nefarious about settling a lawsuit that will promote public safety and save dollars and stop unnecessary litigation. Nothing to do with Illinois politics. It's called common sense. Thank you.
Common sense was appreciated in the negotiated settlement that is provided by this agreement, which we didn't have before. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no lights, please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 9 ayes, 1 no. Councilmember Euler, Madam Clerk.
20-261 is a request to adopt an ordinance setting compensation for certain elected officials of the city of Peoria for the period of 2021 through 2025.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is, by law, you are required to affix the compensation for elected officials for the period beginning 2021 through 2025. This is required to be set 180 days before the start of the term. The compensation for those elected officials cannot be increased or decreased during the term, so they have to be set in advance, and then it's set for that period of time. The proposed ordinance here outlines the compensation for the mayor, the city clerk, the city treasurer, and the council members, and reflects a 0% increase for that 4-year term. We did send out, we have a kind of a listserv and communication group of many of our central Illinois communities, and we surveyed a number of them about what are they planning on doing as far as salary increases. And there was really only one community that we're aware of that was looking at an increase, and they were really only structuring it to follow the CPI. So that was it. Most everyone else was staying with the salaries set at the same levels that they're at. So again, it's required by law that we have this in front of the council 180 days before the start of the terms, and that's the reason why it's up for you this evening.
Thank you, and just a clarification is it's the at-large council members, not
correct. Sorry, the at-large,
not district. Any discussion or motion? Councilman Kelly.
It's for the district council people, is it not?
Did I say it?
You said at large.
Yeah, district, mayor and district. Correct. Anybody want to make a motion? Councilman Regenbach.
Move for the approval.
Okay. Motion to approve, seconded Councilman Kelly. Discussion. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously, Madam Clerk.
20-262 is a request to receive and file a presentation by Peoria Public Works Department on snow removal operations.
I see our Assistant Director of Public Works, Head Snow Fighter Coordinator, Director Maroon. Welcome.
and listeners. I am Cy Maroon from Public Works. We're here this evening to share our snow program for the upcoming season for 2020 and 2021 snow season. So I'd like to begin by saying thank you for allowing us to come before you to share this information. This is really vital information that you should have, you should be armed with so that you can take out to your constituents. And we're happy to come here on an annual basis to be able to do this presentation and bring you up to date because there are changes from year to year. And so beginning, doing something wrong here. Thank you. It's technology, folks. I'm just a little behind. So what I like to do is, as we go through the presentation, there are going to be periods where we're going to compare last year to this coming season, okay? And then there'll be some other areas where we're just going to talk about how we are going forward. But this slide here depicts basically what's happened last year in comparison to where we are this year in terms of routes. Last year we had 21 routes, or I should say last season in 2019, 2020, we had 21 routes. This year, because of all the challenges that we're faced with reductions and just the multitude of things that we're looking at and staring at us, we've had to reduce our number of routes to 17 routes. And we know that's going to be a cause for concern, and rightfully so, it should be. But this is what we landed on, 17 routes, and we went over and over and over and spent a lot of time to try to put together the best possible plan that we could have there. So winter staffing looks like this. Last season, we had 37 permanent maintenance employees, 22 temporary employees for a total of 59. This season, we are going to be working with 32 permanent employee maintenance workers and 15 temporary employees for that total of 47. There's a 12-person difference there, okay? Public Works is not unlike anybody else. We fall in line with everybody else with the cuts that we've had to endure. Public Works was hit with 14 cuts positions, and 12 of those are in the operations side, which is impacted by, which will be impacted with snowfall. Okay, so we've lost 12 bodies. That does not include, if we have someone ill, someone, have COVID for that matter, for any injuries, it doesn't allow for that. But we are staffed with 47 folks for this year. So getting into the snow route and the treatments, primary routed streets, we have 158 miles of primary routed streets. Now those streets are signed, which we'll get into showing you some signs further in the presentation. But those are the main primary arterial routes that we've designated that will be done first. Those will get pre-treat with anti-icing. That's our brine application, which we'll talk about later. They will get salt treatment, and they'll also be plowed. So the primary streets are the main focus. Once we complete the primary streets, we then go into the residential streets, which again, we'll talk about in another slide. So the primary snow route system from last year, we're going to do that comparison again. Last year, or last season to this season, we had 21 snow routes last season. We upped that one from the prior season, as you see on the slide, where we had 20 snow routes. We were able to do that without any equipment increase, any dollar increase, with no more additional employees. And we were pretty proud of that, and that really went well for us. The additional employees that we had, or I'm sorry, not the additional, but the additional employee that we were able to put on the truck, we had them on staff with that number of 59 from last year. We also, on the primary route system, we had four designated hill routes, 8 tandem routes, and we run the two 12-hour shifts when we have 2 or more inches forecasted with additional snow in the forecast. So let me go back to the 4 designated hill routes. Just so you're aware of what the hill routes consist of, there's hills all over Peoria. These are the hills that are designated to get you from the bluff to the valley or the valley to the bluff. They start at Laramie and they make their way all the way down to Abington. There's hills in between that entire stretch of the city of Peoria. That's what the hill routes consist of. The 8 tandem plow routes that we have, that's when we double up or triple up or quadruple up trucks to clear a route in a quicker manner. Okay, so we have some tools that we work with depending on the storm, depending on the situation, depending on what's coming next, what's tomorrow look like. So we're looking ahead. We're not just living in the moment. So we have a lot of tools. We got the 12-hour shifts. Those are critical. We need to man the 12-hour shifts because once we get into the 2 inches or more snowfall, it then requires us to get into the residential streets. So that's not likely to happen on a regular shift or working people 16 hours. So going into this season, we reduced our snow routes to 17. We have the fewer permanent maintenance workers and temporary maintenance workers that we talked about. We've reduced our snow routes to now 2 routes. That's 2 trucks that are going to cover all the hills, okay? We're going to continue with the 8 tandem plow routes, and 12-hour shifts are there. I mean, that's a given. We have to run with those. So just to give you a little bit more insight on the tandem route, because we don't always talk about the other tools that we have. We always talk about the basic stuff that we do. The tandem routes are at certain times of a storm and usually at certain times of the evening when there's less traffic. We can take 2, 3, or 4 trucks and we can run down Sterling and clear half of Sterling on one pass and turn around and clear it in another pass, hit Glen, hit University, hit Knoxville, wherever the routes take the trucks. And we can clear that in a pass, typically on one side of the street. The wider streets get more trucks than, of course, the narrower streets, and we've got that broke down based off our internal plan. So that's a tool that we use quite often, that we typically try to do that late in the evening, early in the morning, so that the roads are cleared. Our goal is to have the roads cleared and open so that people can get up, go to work, and go to school. And so we're running those tandem routes usually in the middle of the night. Residential streets, 321 miles of residential streets. Typically, they're not salted, except under extreme conditions, and those really kind of fall into the icing situations that we get into. They're plowed only after completing the primary routes, and we have a no bare pavement policy on residential streets. So that means basically that we aren't going to get you to the pavement without the help of the sun. We're going to clear whatever we can clear off of those to make them passable. That's the intent of the no bare pavement policy. We're not guaranteeing bare pavement on residential streets. We are planning to have bare pavement by the time we get off the primaries going to the residentials so that the motorists can travel. We have 80 alleys, approximately 80 alleys in the city of Peoria. Those are not salted. Those can be plowed or are plowed once we hit the 5-inch mark or more. And we're doing that with one pass through so that we're clearing a path so that people that have garages or park in the rear of their homes have access, as well as the garbage trucks, have access to getting through the alley and getting to a street that's going to get them where they're going. So that happens, like I say, typically after the 5-inch of accumulation. So 2020, 2021 season, it says here that between 2 and 6 inches, removal has to be removed within 36 hours after the snow has ended. Now, we did up that because of the fact that it's going to take us longer, and we know that. And then 6 inches or more, we have 48 hours. That's up from 24 and 36 hours, okay? But that is something that we plug in there so that we're at least telling people we're going to get it done, and it's going to typically be done before those designated times. But this season is going to be a little bit different. It's going to take a little bit longer. And so then we've got the increased time there. So getting into the ABC routes, this is another tool that we have for snow clearing, snow removal. If you're looking at the slide here, what you see in green is one complete full route, okay? That's actually our Route 1, and we're using that just to show what goes on throughout the other 17 or the other 16 routes. It's a rotational approach that we take to plowing residential streets, okay? So that's the complete route. What you see in the light gray are 3 different routes from that one complete route. Now, that one complete route on this slide is broke down into 3 different routes. We have A, B, and C. And there's a couple of reasons why we do this. We get a lot of phone calls, as I'm sure you do as well, that they're always the last people to get plowed. Their street's always the last one to be seen by a truck to get to. Well, this changes that philosophy. We'll start out the first snowstorm, and again, going into residential, there has to be more than 2 inches. But we'll start out the snowstorm, and when we go to the ABC routes for clearing, we will start with the A route, go to the B route. When that's completed, we go to the C route. The next storm, we're going to start with the B route, go to CA, and on, as you can see. And we do that so that rotation continuously changes who's going to be first and who's going to be last. Now, I have to say, we fully understand that people don't really know where they're at on which route. We get that. I've encouraged phone calls to us, and I've taken phone calls last season to explain the ABC route to people that really didn't understand. I actually had a couple of phone calls from a couple council members, which I think is beneficial to have that understanding, because nobody in the city of Peoria is going to be the first street plowed first every time, or the last street plowed every storm. Okay, so that's a tool that we use. Again, it's something that we do, and without expecting everyone to know and understand what it is. But if we have the opportunity to explain it, it goes over pretty well. If someone actually is curious about where they're at on a particular storm, on where the truck is, we can give them that information. We can let them know that you're going to probably see it in about 3 hours, or that truck is right around the corner coming to your route next. I mean, we can give that kind of information. So getting into parking enforcement, these are the signs that are posted throughout the city on all the primary snow routes, the emergency snow routes as they're called. Those are designated, and those are what we work first. In the downtown business district, this is the sign from what's downtown, where there can be parking during a storm between 11 p.m. and 6, or no parking between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. That allows for us to clear the downtown area so that, again, people coming into work in that next day, they can get to their parking spots. Okay. No parking is enforced when snow reaches 2 inches or more on the primary streets that are routed and signed, and that is in effect for 48 hours during a storm. There are fines included, which we don't like to impose on folks, but we have that in our toolbox. Another parking ban is the citywide or specified area, and this can be called by the city manager or his designee. Remains in effect until terminated, and it's a notice for motorists to move their vehicles, and it will be well communicated prior to us going out and enforcing the no parking. That particular no parking ban is used so that we can get through every street if we need to, or any street if we need to, if it's in a specific area. And the last parking ban is the restricted parking ban, where we use this for snow clearing in the major snowfalls. Okay, and then so the no parking pertains to people parking on the odd side of the street or the even side of the street, depending on the number of the day of the month. So the people that are on the odd numbers, they will park on their side. Everyone will park on the odd number side of the street one day, so we can clear the other side of the street, the other parking lanes, the other driving lane. And then on the even number, the cars will shift. So now we're not putting people into a predicament where they have to move their vehicles because they have nowhere to go with them. Especially here again on the big snowfalls, because that's when this is beneficial. So we can get the clearing done in a more rapid pace. We get less vehicles in our way. It moves our trucks along a little quicker. So here I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the chemicals that we use. This picture here shows our brine machine. And with that brine machine, we actually have our staff produce liquid salt brine for less than 10 cents a gallon. Salt brine is efficient up to about 20 degrees, or as low as 20 degrees. And then we have another liquid that we use. It's called calcium chloride, and it's effective when you're getting into the colder temperatures. It's below the 20-degree mark is where we typically use calcium chloride. So all the trucks have tanks, so they can either be carrying brine if that's temperatures allow, or we can switch them over to calcium chloride if there's a need. The 2019-20 snow season, the brine applicator is the truck with the tank on it with the sprayers, okay? So in 2019-2020, we used the brine applicators on hills, overpasses, and hazardous roadways as pre-treatment. So that's going down up to as much as 72 hours before snowfall, as long as there's no rain in the forecast. If there's rain in the forecast, it's defeated its purpose. It'll wash it off. But that's some of the, you might see marks on the street. You might see some things on the street that look like somebody's spraying or pouring, and that's what we're doing, as well as IDOT. You'll see that happening on the bridges and some of their roadways as well. So, but in 2019-2020, we did that on the overpasses, the hazardous roadways, and the hills. This particular season, although we've reduced our staff level, we've reduced our number of trucks, which is a given, we are actually going to increase our brine application to more streets. We're going to cover all primary streets prior to a snowstorm with the brine application. Now, like I said, we have 72 hours to do that. We're looking at the forecast, so if there's rain in the forecast, it doesn't happen. But if there's no rain in the forecast, we're out there hitting it, and we're putting that product down on the street to get us ready. It gives us a head start on what's happening, what's coming next. It'll help with anti-icing, as we talked about earlier. It'll help keep that from the precipitation from bonding to the pavement. If things go well, temperature's got to be right, things like that. But this particular season, we're gonna start out by doing all primary streets, all 158 miles. So here's some of our equipment that we have available to us. This is our snow blower, our Snowcrete, which is quite a machine. It can move up to 1,800 tons of snow per hour. It can load a semi-tractor trailer in about 30 seconds. And where we use it mostly is reopening roads that were closed due to drifting. We have some areas in town out to the north and northwest where we still have open fields, and we get a lot of drifting on Orange Prairie Road, for Alta Lane, and some of those, Radnor Road. There are some areas out there that out to the north that are challenging for us, so we can get the Snowcrete on it and get those roads opened up, make them passable. Typically, it's used in the higher category snowstorms, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a 3 or 4 inch snowstorm with the high winds coming from the north or northwest and blowing that snow right off those fields. And lo and behold, we need to get out there with that machine. So that, again, is available to us. So getting into commercial sidewalk snow removal. Commercial property owners are expected to comply with the ordinance. This came out just a couple of years ago. The schools, businesses, churches, and hospitals are the entities that we are saying need to comply with this ordinance. Snowfall, the snow should not be placed in the street by whoever's doing the cleaning of their walks, and we do not want them to block fire hydrants or mailboxes, okay? They need to remove the snow back wherever they can on their property. That's for us to aim to ensure that the city is safe and walkable. That is critical, because we do have some areas where we have high traffic volumes, but there are people walking in the streets. So we really do want to encourage the business owners to comply with the snow removal ordinance. And this is the ordinance right here. I won't read all the way through it, but I will pick out a point here that 6 inches of snow must be cleared within 24 hours. This is by the business or church or school. More than 6 inches of snow, they have 36 hours to clear their walks. Okay? A lot of times, what they can do is once they know the plow has gone by and we're clearing streets curb to curb, that's a perfect time for them to get out and do their sidewalks. The problem is if they get out there before, and I realize it's a timing factor, it's all timing when it comes to snowstorms. It's a timing factor, but if they get out and plow or clear their sidewalks, and 20 minutes later, half hour later, you name it, we come by and we blow the snow back on their sidewalk, that doesn't go so well. I will say this, we do make accommodations for that if that does happen. We do try to be reasonable. We don't want to come back at the property owner or the school and say, you have to clean again. We do make some accommodations to that. Do we want to? No, but it's good customer service. So, we have to keep that in mind. I mean, they've already done their job. Maybe they've done it a little bit too soon. So, the fact of the matter is we'll come and make it right. So this is the brine applicator. It's a truck, one of our plow trucks, with a large tank on the back with sprayers and nozzles. Some of the future considerations that we continue to look at in-house, and one of the ideas came from Director Powers when he got here from Indiana, is we started talking about recycling brine, recycling salt for brine at the post-storm portion of the operation. We've had those conversations. I think it's a great idea. We're just not there yet, and that's a future consideration. We want to keep that on our radar because that's product that we can recycle and reuse. One of our hopes in the sometime near future, when things turn around for us, we'd like to purchase another wing plow for wider plowing. A wing plow setup, and I may take a second here to explain that, is a truck that has two plows on it. So you've got a truck that's got the plow in the front and it's got a plow on the side. Well, that truck is now equivalent to two trucks driving down the street with one driver. So we can clear a lot of snow on the wider streets a lot sooner with the wing plows. We have 4 of them in our inventory right now, in our fleet inventory, but we would like to add at least one more as we designate different areas of town for those wing plows to operate in. And then the last one is the purchase of a larger brine tank. What you see in the picture, we have a truck that's set up just like that, and then we have a truck with a smaller tank, about half the size of that one. And we feel as though if we can get another larger tank, that we can cut down on the deadhead time without product in our vehicle and keep them out on the street longer, covering more territory. So those are just future considerations that we'll keep on our radar. So we'll get into public information and communications. We have a dedicated communication specialist at Public Works. Her name is Alex Williams. She will be doing all the releases for us, taking care of the media releases and all sorts of media and broadcasts. I mean, from the TV, radio, billboards. She'll be handling with Facebook and the website. I mean, there's lots of resource for communications for people to get information. So that is available to the public. This is what we have out at Public Works in terms of getting a hold of somebody at Public Works. We have our main line, which has the phone number, 494-8000. We have our hotline recording, and what happens with this is we put a message on an outgoing message on a recorder, so the citizens don't have to talk to anybody. They can call that hotline, 494-8830, and they can get the message that's going out. They can hear that message in advance of reading it, hearing it, or seeing it. They can call that at every storm. It's updated before, during, and not typically after, but before and during the storms. If there's a change, we do the updates on the hotline recording. And then we have our snow call center, which we house out at Drees Lane. We take an office and we man it with phones. And so the snow call center is activated during significant storms. When it's large, it's going to be long endurance-wise. If there's a lot of phone calls coming, we just need to get it staffed. We have a dedicated staff out there who will answer those calls. There's a voicemail access, so we don't lose that message if, in fact, they don't get a live voice. But we have live voices answering the phones throughout that time. And like I said, that will be updated before and a lot of times during the storm, depending on the changes. So that's pretty much the presentation there. What I'd like to say is this, in closing. it's hard to make guarantees these days, okay? But if there was one guarantee that I will make, I'm going to share it with you right now. I guarantee you that Peoria Public Works is going to treat every snowstorm that we're faced with this season no different than how we've treated others just because we've had the reduction. We are going to attack these snowstorms the way they need to be attacked. We're going to be challenged. It's going to take longer. We're asking for patience and understanding. And we would hope that that message gets out. Patience and understanding is what we need. And if people can have patience and understanding, we're going to get there. We're going to get to them at some point in time. It may take longer. They need to know that. And if they know that, that helps you relieve your calls. It'll help us relieve our calls. So just know that the snow fighters are going to be up and running, and they're going to attack every storm like we've attacked every other storm, fully staffed or not. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Director Maroon. I'll say very objectively for being around for a while that one of the strongest outside of your staff and your equipment and everything, you got a great team. The thing that has drastically improved, especially since you've been in your position here now for a number of years, is the communication is outstanding. You can't turn on any media or see anything on TV during a snow event that you're not out there updating people on the situation and what they can expect, which is very important. And I think people are understanding, due to the budget, it is going to be a little bit different in terms of a timed response. But as long as they have that information and that they can expect, okay, this is when I can expect to see them, it helps a lot. And you've just you've taken that to a whole new level. And I hear it, especially during the winter, all the time. People are like, they might have rather had their street cleared an hour sooner, but at least they appreciate the good information that you consistently put out during the events. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
As Councilman Sear first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Maroon, for your presentation. I just got 3 or 4 questions here that I personally get every season. First one is, with COVID-19 now, it's changed the driving pattern of everybody in the city of Peoria, probably around the state and the country. A lot more people are working from their house. Do you see, when we have big snowstorms, is this going to be a problem where a lot more people will be in their homes, in their driveway, or on the street with their cars?
When we get into the residential areas, I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. It will be if they don't get their cars moved off the street. If we're pushing snow and it's the right temperature to move snow, we are going to be going around them, and they will be, plowed in, so to speak. We don't want to do that on purpose, but we have to put the snow somewhere, and it has to go one way. We can't put it out in the street, in the middle of the street for safety purposes traveling. So yes, that may impact them, but again, as the mayor alluded to, that the communication, we will put that out there. We will keep that update. We will utilize our communications at the highest level.
Another question, you talked about the garbage truck. What about our first responders? Okay. The process when we had large snowstorm, how do we help them out?
So we've had these instances that come up, on a given snowstorm, on a given day or a given evening, whereas you've got AMT or you've got firefighters, the police department need to get somewhere, and we like to make it known that we're a support and we're going to assist that staff or the other entities. If we need to help someone get to a house because of someone who's ill or heart attack or whatever it is, we're going to, if we get the call, we're going to jump out there and we're going to help them. We're going to help them get to that. We'll pull them off of the route. Again, we're structured where they stay on the route till they're done. But in cases like that, we will make the exception to get out in front of and help someone get to a resident.
And the 4 routes that were cut, they're not obviously priority routes, correct?
That firehouse is on a primary route.
So when you go from 21 to 17, I didn't get that part of your presentation. Where were the four routes that were cut?
So what you wouldn't have noticed based on the slide is it's from 2020, 2019, 2020 season, 2020, 21 season. The same map was up there. It was just two different slides. One was 21, one was 14. What we did is we took those routes that were already there. We did not reduce the number of streets. We didn't reduce the primary routes at all. Everything stayed the same. What we did is we had to increase the size of the route. So an average route today, starting as we go today, is 9.5 miles. Okay, for the primary streets. So, but the issue with that is nothing was reduced off of the previous route. It's all still there. It's just in 17 routes. So we've got that increase. So we've taken that increase to 9.5 miles on an average. It's just an average. But that's going center lane. That's going one way. If you double that with the 2-lane street, now you've got double the miles, okay? And if you got a 4-lane street, 5 in some cases where you got out there by the mall with on Sterling, now you're talking quadrupling that number of miles that those trucks are running. So again, that's a great question because that helps to get the information out that we're running one way on those routes, 9.5 miles, 2 ways, 18 to 20 miles, and 40 miles from there. So it's going to take a while. The message is it's going to take a little longer, but we are going to get there. We're going to get there. But that's a great point.
Thank you very much. Just a last comment for our city manager. I've talked about it the last couple of seasons. I'd really like for us to make a real effort in the future to, and I know times are very difficult right now and money is really tight, but we should eventually develop an emergency fund, I believe, for public works, for stuff that really don't know about Mother Nature, whether it's the flooding or storms, snowstorms. We just don't know what will happen in the future. I'd love to see us in the future try to develop an emergency fund also for public works. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
I have Councilman Grabe next.
You recognize this, Director Maroon?
Absolutely. It's part of our program.
We love public works. We love you. We love the men and women of public works. But frankly, you're being asked to put lipstick on a pig tonight, thanks to the council. I'm looking at the snow removal and ice control plan of 2019 into 2020. What is the big swing from this plan to this plan, in your opinion?
The biggest swing is we've had to reduce the routes and we've reduced manpower.
And that translates into time that our citizens have to wait to have their streets cleared.
Correct.
See at least 12-hour swing for less than 6 inches or greater than 6 inches. Now, I can say to my constituents in the 2nd District that they need to be patient. That's fine and dandy if they're not having a heart attack, or it's a nurse who needs to go to work. I can just go on and give you many, many examples. You absolutely are, as the mayor has pointed out, doing a tremendous job. Communication has improved 100% under your leadership. But I apologize for the lack of resources you've been given to do the impossible. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody here for flagging the amount of time it takes to get to alleys. In District 2, Councilman Riggenbach, District 3, Councilor Moore wanted this brought up. District 1, there are a lot of homes that have garages off alleys. Where are they supposed to put their cars? How's a senior going to negotiate if that's the way into their house when they're plowed at 5 inches of accumulation and they're not even salted? Simon Maroon, I'm not asking you to respond, I'm saying this for the benefit of my colleagues. When that storm comes, here's what we're going to do. We're going to revisit this. But the notes are being taken tonight on what was said. And I can remember when the geniuses came forward suggesting we cut 27 police officers in April, 3 firehouses, and do away with $27 million worth of infrastructure. Cy Maroon, you're doing a great job. I'm sorry that the council has failed its citizens with the resources they're giving you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Councilmember Montalongo next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Maroon, you and your staff always do a great job, and we really appreciate the work that you do. You mentioned in your presentation that you're going to be giving updates through a recording. So that's going to be the play-by-play, so to speak, on where it's done. I mean, how that works is usually we get a phone call when what's taking so long, period of time, people just kind of don't know what's going on, when they're next. I don't know if the anxiety sets in with some, but I'm sure the rest of the district council people start getting all those phone calls and at large on when are we next, and then I'll start probably calling you. Did I understand that correctly? It's going to be done through a recording?
So we've had that in our process, in our plan previous years. I don't think we presented it as well as we're doing tonight and putting it out there. But that 494-8830 number has been in use, and we do that with our staff. Our staff will do that recording prior to a storm, or like I say, if there's a change during the storm, that will also go out. But I also, as you are well aware of, I do the snowstorm updates, and so that's where that information comes from. But because there's a lot of people that don't get that update is what typically gets put onto the recording, the hotline recording that we have. And like I said, it's our staff that's doing it, so they're there. Matter of fact, she's sitting here in the audience tonight. So we know the importance of that, and we have that as a tool for the citizens to use.
Sure. One other question, and I know in the past, and I don't know where we are at with that type of technology. I knew at one point visiting with somebody from Public Works in the past about having a GPS so we would know where the location is of a machine, for example. Is that available today?
So that's a great question, and it was a good system. We kind of ran out of technology. We had to upgrade at one point in time, or because the system that we had was, it was no longer being supported by the technology company that we purchased from. So we were looking at the upgrades, but quite honestly, we looked at that as something that we thought was very, very important, and it helps us tremendously to answer questions right away, or to, we can also say, yes, we saw that we've got a document here that shows that the truck was on your street 30 minutes ago. I mean, it had that capacity. But we were at a time here recently, in the past few years, that we had to look at our budget and see what was important and what we could afford and what we couldn't. And that was just one of the things, unfortunately, that we could not keep moving forward with, or we didn't feel we could at that particular time. It should have been on our future considerations because that's still on the radar. It's just that it's not there right now.
And just maybe a suggestion, just to, I think most cell phones have a tracker, if that's even possible to do something like that. But just adding that, also I do have that concern for when we have that major snowfall, more than the 6 inches, and it taking 4 days, maybe we should look at a way to get that to 3 days here. And if that means adding some additional funding for that, I think we need to be more prepared for than waiting 4 days for a major snowfall like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Riggenbach is next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Maroon, Director Powers, Ms. Pitcher. We see you back there also. We just want to thank you for this thorough explanation of what to expect. I think a lot of us have been kind of waiting with a little angst, if you will, as to what it could be like. And probably after that first snowfall, there'll be more questions than we have tonight. But that's one thing that I'll say again, that your department, Mr. Maroon, specifically, you've just been so responsive to any concerns that I brought up, and I think all of us council members would say that same thing, and that this is clearly a work in process. So thank you for the thoughtfulness. Thank you for the communication. And I don't know if this would be appropriate for the website, but I think making all the public aware of what the changes are is always a good thing. So if we could see that gets up on the website, that would be helpful. I know I was at a neighborhood meeting last week, believe it or not, one of the first ones in about 6 months, and snow removal came up, and the expectation is the most important part of the delivery, I think. So thank you for making it clear that it's going to be different, and we have total confidence in you and your team to get the job done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Maroon? Or we would entertain a motion to receive and file. Councilman Reckriegel, seconded by Councilman Sear. Before we take the vote, I would like to also acknowledge Public Works Director Rick Powers is here as well. We know that it's a team effort, and you guys are doing a lot of good work, and we appreciate that. And Director Maroon, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
20-263 is a request to receive and file the budget calendar for the 2021 revised annual budget and the presentation of the 2021 revised annual budget.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're not going to have a budget presentation this evening, but we will just simply quickly talk about the budget calendar that's in your packet. The budgets will be presented to you later this week. We're continuing to try and wrap those up. The spending plan will be really an extension of the operating budget plan that we had made and the changes that we made as part of the 2020 budget process. These revisions still anticipate that we'll have a balanced budget in 2021. And the calendar calls for two Tuesday meetings, weekly Tuesday meetings, beginning next week, excluding Election Day, and wrapping up by November 17th or sooner if council's comfortable with the direction that the budget is heading. If there's a need for a truth and taxation hearing, that would be on November 10th, but we're not anticipating that would be necessary as part of the budget process. So it's just, at this point in time, this lays out the calendar for you with a plan to try and get the budget adopted by November 17th. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the manager? So starting next week, we'll be meeting every Tuesday, except for Election Day.
That's correct.
This is an action item for receive and file. Councilman Sear, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Seeing no discussion, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We're at unfinished business. 20-182 is a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the City of Peoria pertaining to the registration of residential property. And I call your attention to a yellow handout on your desk.
Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to defer this for 1 month.
Seconded, was that Councilmember? Seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Discussion on the deferral. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. The motion passes with 9 ayes, 1 no. Councilmember Graeb. Madam Clerk.
20-198 is a request to consider adopting an ordinance amending Chapter 18 of the Code of the City of Peoria pertaining to bodywork establishments.
Councilwoman Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I request and move that we defer this, hopefully one last time, for the next council meeting, or I guess in 2 weeks.
Next business meeting. Okay. Seconded by Councilman Kelly. Discussion on this deferral? Councilman Graham.
I think it's taking way too long to do this. There have been 2 massage parlors that have been shut down in District 2 that were operating illegally. This needs to have been done some time ago. I'm going to vote no.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 9 ayes, 1 no. Councilman Graham. Madam Clerk.
20-226 has 3 parts. A is to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix A, the Unified Development Code relating to various text amendments without changes to parking and duplex regulations. B is to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix A, the Unified Development Code relating to parking in form districts. And C is to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix A relating to duplex regulations.
Councilman Rockriegel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to defer until the next business meeting.
Motion to defer, seconded by Councilmember Ali. Discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 9 ayes, 1 no. Councilman Graham. Madam Clerk.
20-244 is a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class CN neighborhood commercial district for an assisted living, sober living facility for property at 2419 North Prospect Road.
Councilman Riggenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the request of the petitioner, I'd ask for a 2-week deferral.
Seconded, Councilmember Euler. Discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously, Madam Clerk.
If there's no further unfinished business,
Do we have any additional unfinished business this evening? I'm seeing none. Madam Clerk.
we would be at new business.
New business to come before the council tonight. Any new business? Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Self here. I've spoken to a number of my fellow council people, about bringing perhaps, or having a discussion anyway, about having some metrics involved in our discussions of city council and mayoral salaries. It seems that the process is rather arbitrary, and my own preference is to put some metrics onto such a discussion so that somehow, some way, the council and the mayor's compensation changes are dictated by metrics that we have agreed upon. I think this is something that during an election period this is probably not the right time to go into this. And so I would just like to inform the council that at least after the April elections, and perhaps after the swearing in of new council members in May, I will probably be asking for a policy session or some sort of a discussion of how we might, or whether we ought to do this sort of thing with our salaries, and also have a look at the various components of the salaries as well. So it's just an informational statement, Mr. Mayor, but I just wanted to get it out there so that we've all got time to think about this and prior to a full-fledged discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other new business this evening? New business? Okay. Seeing no lights, Madam Clerk.
We would be at citizens' opportunity to address the city council, and I have received one email by before noon today. So would you like for me to read it now? Okay. This is from Carrie Alms, and she writes that whatever the game of basketball is played, there is a hoop or a basketball standard that is the same for everyone playing this game. It is called a standard because it's always the same, always 10 feet high. Likewise, the Peoria City Council has adopted standards for their code of conduct. Peoria City Ordinance 16142 details their code of conduct standards. This code is essential for the orderly discussion and voting on the business of constituents of the city of Peoria. When this standard is breached in any way, it is incumbent upon the presiding officer, usually the mayor or his substitute, to preserve order and decorum and may speak to points of order in preference to other members and shall decide all questions of order except special orders. Additionally, the Code of Conduct of the Peoria City Council is predicated on the Golden Rule, which states, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." City council meetings are forums for conducting the people's business in an orderly and dignified way. Therefore, there are certain standards of conduct which are required. 1, city council members must not engage in verbal abuse of fellow council members, staff, or members of the public. If any member engages in such abuse, the member will be ruled out of order by the chair and reprimanded by the council if such commentary continues. At the Peoria City Council meeting held on September 22nd, 1st District Councilwoman Denise Moore engaged in such unbecoming conduct when she attacked fellow council member John Kelly during the discussion on tax abatement. Her comments devolved into naming council member Kelly a liar, as well as slandering him by making reference to his wearing of a MAGA hat, 2 or even possibly 3 instances during this discussion. Councilmember Kelly was actually wearing an MPGA hat, a Make Peoria Great Again hat, at a different event. Councilmember Moore should publicly apologize to Councilmember Kelly and the constituents of Peoria for her breaches of conduct. The chair, the mayor, did nothing to correct any of these breaches of conduct by Councilmember Moore. Furthermore, no council members brought forth a point of order to address each of these breaches of conduct during a meeting as allowed by Robert's Rules of Order. The oath of office is where each council member solemnly swears and signs, "I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office according to the best of my ability." Please make meaningful that which each of you as an elected official have sworn to uphold and treat each other with respect and agree to agreeably disagree. If not, then please amend this ordinance and remove these sections which appear to have no meaning. Please uphold these standards and set the example of conduct that our community needs more now than ever as we journey through this pandemic and times of great economic uncertainty.
Next, we have Lavetta Ricca.
Long time no see. I'm here to tell you a story. A few years back, I had a fire. A wire going to my garage caught on fire. Neighbors seen it, called the fire department, and I didn't even realize it. When I realized it, there was a fire truck, a 4 truck in front of my house and one in back. and the men from Four House were there, including Tony. And when I got out there, they had already put it out. And while I was thanking them and talking to them, I told them that because of my older age coming, my biggest fear was to have a fire and not be able to get out. And so Tony put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Sweetheart, you don't have to worry about that anymore, because I guarantee you, if you have a fire, the men from the Four House will be here to get you out of your house safely. You can count my words on that." Well, those words are kind of hollow these days. There's no Four House and there's no four men. But as I sat at my kitchen table crying and asking myself a question out loud, how can they do this to us? How can they take the oldest station and the oldest people who depend on them away from us? How can they do that? And then I start thinking back over the 82 years that I've lived in the South Side, along with 6 generations of my family. We had it all. We had beautiful neighborhoods, the most wonderful place to grow up in. We had the first Proctor Hospital, where I was born 82 years ago. We had Zoll's department store. We had a Ben Franklin's. We had an Avon Theater. We had many schools and churches. We had many, many grocery stores and meat markets. We had everything needed to thrive. And then my city started to chop. Systematically, they started taking away. Chop, chop, chop. Until you can all see today the results of that. So, my friends, as you sharpen your pens to cross the T's and dot the I's of continuing the chopping by taking our firehouse away, we still have something to be hopeful and happy for. And that is to thank the good Lord for not allowing a switch to the air we breathe. Because there are many people out in this city who would be very happy to turn off that air and chop us off. Thank you.
Up next, we have Michael Rucker.
To ask for anything or to cause any problem. My name is Michael Rucker. I live at 1003 West Centennial Drive, Peoria, 61614. And I am here representing the Trail Advocates for Central Illinois, formerly known as Friends of the Rock Island Trail. The Friends of the Rock Island Trail has been around since 1983, and we're instrumental, as you may remember, in getting the Rock Island State Trail built over the years, the first rail trail in the state of Illinois. And then we worked very closely, in fact, with you folks concerning the Rock Island Greenway, the former Keller Branch Railroad, which runs through the city. So just wanted to mention those things, and that we are of a new name because the Friends of the Rock Island Trail merged with Bike Peoria and to gain strength, and that's a really marvelous, strong organization. Our major project right now is to work on the Hannah City Trail from Kickapoo Creek Road to Farmington, and we're waiting now to see if the federal government will approve the application for a grant. So the kind of things we do, though, we support the trails. For example, we built our members built the trailhead shelter at Alta, and we built that own, paid for it all ourselves. And we do brush cleaning and other things, maintenance on the trails ourselves. And what I found over the years in various organizations is that people don't want to just be a member of an organization, they want a project. So one of our members came forward and said that why don't we have high school students paint murals on the abutments of the underpass under Allen Road. And so we started talking to the city people about that, and we're asked to submit an application. We did that initially, and it was kind of approved, or I say it was approved. And then we have meetings several times, with other city people. We got the high schools involved. They submitted their proposed art for it. One of our members donated $600 to reward the students, $50 each with who submitted art, $100 to those who won. And then all of a sudden last week, we got an email saying that the project couldn't be done. So we got the community kind of excited about it. We had volunteers come and clear the brush at Allen Road Underpass. Had 10 volunteers come the first time, and so we did that. And now all of a sudden it was called off because of an ordinance. So we're told that hopefully by next spring they can, we were going to be by this time underway with the murals. But anyway, it was called off, and so that's all there is to it. We're not angry. We understand ordinance. So we just ask that, perhaps if you would just look at what's happening with the city attorney's office to see if there's any way that we can get around this, because it is on city property and we know it has to be. So that's all. We're just hoping the project can go forward, and also wanted to let you know that the trail folks have a new name, Trail Advocates for Central Illinois. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
We do not have an executive session, so we would be at adjournment.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. Councilman Regenbach, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. We'd like to thank Joe Deacon and his listening audience at WCBU as well as Cable Channel 22. We'll be back next Tuesday for start of the 2021 budget discussions, and this meeting is adjourned.